Hello everyone, my name is Raj. Nice to meet you. Today I want to talk about Eureka Orthos, the latest deep dungeon added to Final Fantasy XIV from the perspective of a solo player. Deep dungeons are the party content, and even if Square gives options to solo players, it's just an afterthought. But still, if the content can be enjoyed in such a manner, it deserves to be talked about within that framework. Okay, but who am I to talk about EO? Well, I'm a casual deep dungeon runner. I wanted to get the Necromancer title back in Shadowbringers, but I got an opportunity to realize my dream only recently. It took me a month of a non-stop grind, but in the end I got my Palace of the Dead clear on Machinist. And 10 days later, I got Heaven on High clear, on Warrior, on my second attempt. I've cleared Eureka Orthos on my 5th attempt. It could have been the second, but I let the last boss tickle me with fire, so I'm definitely not a specialist when it comes to deep dungeons, but I understand some fundamentals. And as I was writing the script, Finn, the guy who got the world first Omni clear of EO, dropped a video with his thoughts about it. We bring up somewhat similar points, so if you want a more in-depth look, I highly recommend it. Welcome to Eureka Orthos Critique. I will go over positives, negatives of the content, and what was the general reception of the solo deep dungeon community. But before we start, as a wannabe YouTube essayist and to pad the length of this video, let me give you a brief overview of Deep Dungeon's history. Palace of the Dead launched in patch 3.35 with 50 floors, and in 3.45 floors up to 200 were added. Scoring showed up then as well, but you know what wasn't there? Sustaining potions in the title. Yes, Square Enix didn't actually expect players to solo clear the content, and both of those things were added only at the launch of Stormblood. And only then the first Palace clear was achieved, on Red Mage, months after the launch of the expansion. Speaking of Stormblood, Heaven on High was added in 4.35 and cleared in 2 weeks, on Red Mage. Then we didn't get a deep dungeon in Shadowbringers because obviously it is the worst expansion content-wise. Yet. And Walker can't change that, but we will see. And finally we get to Eureka Orthos, launched in 6.35, and it was cleared. It was cleared after 21 hours after the release of the patch. Of course, over the years, the dungeon community got bigger and better, skill floor grew, and players were prepared for anything Square would throw at them, but no one was truly ready for the things to come. So, let's start with positives. You're finally free from the shackles of low levels. Now you don't have enough buttons to put the pots on. In my opinion, the strongest part of EO is being able to use the full kit of a given job. Maybe it is something we can enjoy only before the next expansion drops, but nonetheless, I had the time of my life. For example, Reaper doesn't have the core of its identity before 80, and Shroud. So you have strong GCDs and Shield in Palace and Heaven on High, but you're pretty much a DPS Dark Knight on a diet. And at 90, you just explode everything, and that feels great. Every job got multiple clears within 2 weeks after the patch dropped, so anything can clear, and everything is balanced, so isn't that great? Bosses in EO are not comparable to Behemoth or Godfather in Palace, but they're definite improvement over anything Heaven on High gave us. And clones considerably speed them up. Most of the bosses have okay mechanics and tempo, and I'd say the only one I actively dislike is the 10th floor boss, but more about that later. But why they're not better than the Palace bosses? Truth be told, Behemoth is a happy accident just like a solo Palace itself, but, and I say that with an absolute confidence, Behemoth Push is the best solo experience I've had in this game, and Godfather puts the pressure of 189 floors on you, and then it can just treat you and ruin your day, and that's pretty cool. It's a small thing, and I don't want to spoil the conclusion of Noah's questline. I just appreciate that we got a lore drop that ties into the established narrative and rewards for clearing all 100 floors. It's a bit out of character for Square nowadays, if we exclude what-ifs in Savage and Ultimates. Gotta say though, getting my first clear as a solo paladin really paid off. If you know, you know. Generally, I like doing late floors while listening to whatever track Deep Dungeon gives me. That's not the case in Orthos. For some reason, Square decided that putting the whole Pulse album was a good idea. I know, you may like it, but I definitely don't. And can we agree that EO was not the best place to put a dubstep track with a reloading sound? Also, the track from the belly of Cerberus? Why? I like demi-clones. Even with wonky purification from Doga or not needed 90% of the time healing from Une, they have their niche. And then there's Onion Knight. It does as much damage as a damage dealer, it heals you a little when your HP is low, and it wouldn't be a problem if the damage wasn't the most important thing in the EO. Survivability could have been nice to have, but mobs do no damage here. The scariest things we have are mimics at late floors and a bugged cocaine bear, but it's not a negative section of this video to discuss it. Maybe Square just moved all their testers into Final Fantasy XVI, but for some reason this patch feels buggy. First we got Orthos in top, and then we get Gula Gula swiping people to death, and then fitters and similar mobs just insta-casting their skills. You would imagine that when they added Lethargy into EO, they would have tested how it interacts with each enemy, but for some reason players had to die to the bugs at late floors. One of them is Gula Gula bug. You may have heard about it. The bear is supposed to do a telegraphed swipe, then follow up with an untelegraphed one, instantly. But under Lethargy effect or arm's length, or for like some reason, it can delay the second swipe, and do it whenever. So you can get insta-cleave for 200k damage. By the time of recording of this video, it's a confirmed issue, and Square is working on it. Then we have a fitter bug. You know, those enemies at the last set of floors that do a huge AoEs out of combat. If you use Lethargy and then they're not on your screen for a long time, and then you approach the room with them, they'll do it instantly. And guess who lost the round to that?
Excuse me?
And you know the funniest thing? According to developers, it is working as intended. It is somewhat of a community consensus at this point, but enemies on floors 1 to 30 have too much HP. Kind of subjective. Maybe you're okay with the values right now, but I sure do hope you're not trying to do a score run. Floors before 31 have a short respawn timer, around 1 minute, so you can end up doing an AoE pool, and as you're finishing it, another mob spawns on top of the key. And the issue with the 10th floor boss is its HP as well. The chances of fighting clone are very slim here, and mechanics are not engaging, so on some jobs you just have to suffer for 10 minutes doing nothing, which feels like a heaven and high boss. Maybe it will become better when the next expansion drops, so hey, we can deal with it even if early floors suck the very essence of our soul. I never thought I would miss crits, but here we are. It took me some time, but then I realized none of the mobs in EO were designed with the thought of you can only do them in a party. Now, it's obvious. You can fight everything here, but think about it. How many mobs have a mechanic that cannot be avoided? And lack of auto attack damage piles into that. Just look at Shinzei in Heaven on High. The guy has a simple but quite interactive rotation that will force you to take damage if you want to take less damage. You can interrupt Thunder too, but you don't want to do that. HP is a resource in each deep dungeon, but less so in Orthos. And what about binary design? Well, EO just kills you. You have a handful of survivable mechanics, but at some point you'll die from any telegraph. That's not really hard, just mean. If you pay attention, you survive. You have the option to make this even easier, though. I brought this accursed thing in the bug section, but oh Lord Almighty, what were they thinking making it as common as it is? The Lethargy is a floor wipe, the one that makes you press buttons, maybe a lot of them, but using it just turns off the only difficulty Orthos has. It is great as a learning tool, don't get me wrong, but once you know what enemy does, you just don't care. You will get hit by auto attacks even less, and mechanics are non-existent under it, and again, it bugs the enemies. Okay now, the last negative point, maybe the most objective one. 8 Sentinels suck as a hub location. Everyone can agree on that. It's the only non-restable location for a deep dungeon, so you cannot change your glamour here. And you can teleport here from Mortona, but not back. Why? The solo community has mixed opinions about Orthos. People enjoy EO for what it is, but we had people like Sig voicing their negative thoughts quite early.
Alright. Do we want to have the talk, everyone? The talk about EO. At the very least, it's fun. But it doesn't really feel like Deep Dungeon. It kind of takes it's like they took the heart and soul out of Deep Dungeon, kind of, and just replaced it with a bunch of mechanic difficulty. Thank you for the follow, Raji.
Oh hey, that's me. The full clip is in the description, please watch it. Compared to what we could have had, EO feels like a step in the wrong direction. Homogenization is the word that encapsulates the design of 14 for the last 2 expansions. Jobs revolve around 2-minute bursts now, and the battle content hasn't been experimental since the original Eureka dropped. Final Fantasy XIV team strives to streamline everything so that everyone can enjoy it. I understand where they are coming from, but at the moment game lacks repeatable content, the worst it's been in a while. We don't have exploration zone like Eureka or Borgia. The Criterion dungeon was one-time thing, for now at least. The relics don't have anything going for them, just do your roulettes and you're good. You know, it's weird when I have more fun coming into Pagas and spawning Cassie. Homogenization in EO comes from the low auto-attack damage and mechanical knowledge check. There's no reactive gameplay there. You don't have to think about saving your healing options for a tank buster that crits. Every job gets the same hand. You don't need the guiding potential of Machinist, it would actively make some mechanics worse. You do not need a shield of a summoner to mitigate a specific skill of a specific mob that would otherwise one-shot you. Some jobs get better uptime options because of interrupt or stun, but it's just a comfort. Those things are not something that lets you pull them up on one job but not on another. And the worst thing, it really applies only to solo. As far as I've seen, EO is the best deep dungeon to go as a party. Just general changes Square Enix made to the game made Orthos worse in solo. But what could have been different? I'm not going to spend more of your time here, I'm just a guy who enjoys niche content, so let me bombard you with things I would love to see. EO with doubled auto attack damage and mobs having more HP at high floors. That's it. Unreal Palace of the Dead or Heaven on High. Yeah, I know about having more deep dungeons with the full kit at level 90 would be awesome. Especially when you can use the kit for something that is not damage, but Square Enix will never do that. It's not the content that the general player base is gonna touch. Okay, something more reasonable. Title for clearing each deep dungeon solo. Why did Square add the title for collecting 20,000 treasure chests, but not this? I love my Necromancer title, but damn, I want to show people that I engage with the content. The same goes for clearing each ultimate, by the way. Why is it not in the game? Don't tie sustaining potions to pot shards, just let us buy them. Or just make it a duty action at this point. People accidentally got their first clears while trying to farm the pot shard for their main job. Okay, I'm done with reasonable requests. Let Blue Mage into the deep dungeon. I'm not asking. We can only guess what the next deep dungeon is going to be. Most likely it will follow the same design paradigm of Orthos, but it still has the potential to be actually fun for solo players with small adjustments. And can we get the next one earlier than 5 years? Thank you for watching this video. It went a little around the places. I didn't have to write a script for 5 years, so that's the reason. Huge thanks for everyone who allowed me to use their clips. Angelus Demonus, Finn Bizal, Sig9TV, June Clancy, and Amia. Links to their channels are in the description. How do you feel about EO? Did you enjoy it as a party? Did you try it solo? Would you like to get another deep dungeon in the future? Please leave your comments down below. I really want to know your opinions. If you enjoyed the video, consider subscribing. You can also find me on my Twitch channel. I'm there almost every day doing EO. If you have something you want to ask me, feel free to do that. Have a nice time of the day. Bye.